Two of his predecessors, Kim Jong-un and Roh, every detained negotiations in the deceased Polar Korean lead Kim Jong-il in 2000 and 2007, accordingly. Such summits reached several material results, they unsuccessful to considerably go the pin while it came to end the dispute on the Korean peninsula. But down there are essential training session Luna can get off of the successes and failures of his predecessors. While Kim Jong-un and Roh arriving in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-il rolling out the red rug for them, virtually and vividly. The splendor and term done for irresistible images how were speak about the planet, and how's precisely which the Polar Koreans requested. By keeping the early two summits in Pyongyang, the southward Koreans gave Kim Jong-il's large promotion car a household field benefit. The nation's country-controlled print introduced the visits as the southward Koreans' mobile polar to pay homage. They could more than readily monitoring the stream of data and image upcoming of the meetings since they were hosts. Both of the Kim Jong-un and Roh administrations knew the risks of welcome Kim Jong-il on his own sod and potential upcoming behind blank-handed. Although Roh ultimately done the judgment to go to the Polar Korean equity, his authority was indecisive to do so, told Lee Jong-sok, Roh's ex-domestic safety justice president and Union Monastery Church. The optical were bad for both of southward Korean leaders. In every instance, Kim Jong-il obtained the promotion win of his sworn foe upcoming Polar to encounter him, out of assenting to whatever how eventually diminished tensions in the length period. The selection was substantially examined as a trade-off among the two leaders. The ascetic scene will absence the greatness of the early two summits, Luna appears to include provided an essential promotion win of his their own. Southward Korean journalists will be permitted to crucifix in the northern party of the DMZ to seize the time while Kim Jong-un crosses southward. While Kim Jong-un traversed to Pyongyang in 2000, the joint state and southward Korea were worked close to equalize their tactful coverage to Polar Korea. Kim Jong-un leftward Pyongyang in a fistful of deals, particularly to reconnect families separate by the Korean War and to ensure invest for the terrible Polar Korean economics. By difference, Roh had advanced a repute as against American. Ex-U.S. Secretariat of Defense Robert Gates affirmed such idle talk in his reminiscence year after. Proverb Roh said him this largest safety threats in Asia were the joint state and Japan. While Roh traversed Polar in 2007, he was an unloved cripple canard CEO in just months leftward in his period, and requested to castle in a transactions how would provide the southward would go on to ensure Polar Korea in aid following he leftward office space. Roh hoped how the following authority, that he knew was specific to be prudent and center-right, would hold several of the vestiges of his policies, told Andrei Lankov, a prof at Cookman College and specialist on Polar Korea. He requested to do as lot agreements as probable fair to mainly shove it on his heir. History expertise shows how southward Korea hit the side in its politics on Polar Korea while it unsuccessful to convince America, its main friend, to supporting Seoul's Polar Korea politics, told Lee Song-hyun, a investigator at the Sejong Institution in Seoul. To hold the trump card authority abreast of Seoul's moves, Luna has sequentially shipped key aids to the U.S. equity for negotiations. The southward Korean Overseas Secretary, Domestic Safety Advisor and top spy all traversed to Washington recent monthly for negotiations in their peer pressure or top-ranking U.S. officials. In March, Trump card coordinated to conduct a individual summit conference in Kim Jong-un following the invite was brought to him in man by two southward Korean officials who had met Kim in Pyongyang. Luna knows how southward Korea's attitude on Polar Korea will be lot more than efficient while it has us insight on its party, Lee Song-hyun told. Kim Jong-un was the designer of which was named as the Sunlight Politics, chasing nearer economical and tactful collaboration in Pyongyang in the expect of weakening tensions and staving off an economical crash in the Polar. Luna is deliberate one of the key architects of the politics and serviced as a top assistant to CEO Roh. At its cardiac, the Sunlight Politics was inextricably related in cash. The Polar Koreans requested the assistant to hold their nation on water, and eventually, and covertly at the period, the southward Koreans gave it to them in slight or no strings assigned. Kim openly apologized for the clandestine fee, but insisted the cash was for industry deals in Polar Korea. Kim Dae-jung had hoped Kim Jong Illinois would use the cash for China-style reforms to kickstart and partly liberalize the Polar Korean economics. But how didn't occur, and lot southward Koreans came to the finding how the millions of dollars of aid taking into account to Pyongyang unsuccessful to stop their arms programmed and did not correctly serving Seoul's interests. Present, and by the table fee to the Polar Korean mode would be an very dangerous go for Luna. Examining he was selected following fashioning oneself as a pure applicant time campaign for the chairmanship. Southward Korea was looking for an fair lead to substitute the prudent former President Kim Jong Un, who was overthrown in a corrupt practices fracas. She's been condemned to 24 years in jail. All cash transmission is toxicity in Southward Korea in national policy, and Luna's credentials is relying on clarity, told John Delury, a prof at Yonsei College's Grade High School of World Relations. Their departure to be very susceptible and persistent. And any fee by Luna's authority would potentially infringe the deformation world sanctions regime imposed on Polar Korea by the Joint Nations Safety Justice, and force spearheaded by the joint state. Trump card has proclaimed his authorities' maximal blood pressure campaigning will go on as negotiations in Pyongyang get underway. In the present country of sphere, cute lot any significant economical collaboration in Polar Korea goes versus current UN safety justice resolutions. Down there's really few exceptions, told Lankoff. Luna Jae-in cannot provide to problem Donald Trump card and to do thing how might driving Mr. Trump card mad.